We in motion. Thought You Should Know podcast, Deeq Be Knowing, episode 3. I was going to leave this for later, but I'll touch on it now. Stop letting these politicians posture with gun regulation whenever something like egregious happens, right? And these aren't cases where, you know, talking about more stringent gun laws and gun restrictions for people who are doing things the legal way, as if, God forbid, I hate to use this extreme example, but to get my point across, I kind of had to go extreme, right? Your kid gets into your closet, gets your legal gun, and shoots another kid in a house by accident by way of getting your legal firearm. And you just being a little negligent, but still trying to follow the law, fuck up. But when you got murders going on in the inner cities and what have you, and you keep talking about tightening gun regulations, as if the law applies to a criminal, it's bullshit. You know that's not what it's going to be. Only thing you're doing is making it harder for a person who's trying to do things within the realm of the law to protect themselves from a person who don't give a fuck about what they got going on and is here to take. Now, I don't want to dive too deep into this because I know this is a very, very, I don't want to say touchy topic, depending on, but it's a divisive topic. You know what I mean? I'm not big on speaking on things that are very divisive. If I want to talk about something, I want to talk about something that, even if we ain't meeting at a middle ground on something, somebody can understand at least what a person's talking about on the other side because they're open enough to. And certain things like this, people kind of have their mind, made up so much already that they're not looking to be swayed even slightly in another direction. They're not trying to see anywhere past where they're at with it. Where they're at with it is the end all be all, and that's fine with them. And I see that this is like one of those things. So, but this topic is really why, like one of the major topics why I just stopped watching like political commentary television. It's just, it's a lot of the same, and it's irritating at this point. It's not any solutions being had. It's not even people talking about solutions anymore. It's people talking just about the other side and why the other side ain't shit and why their side is so righteous compared to the other side when they're not shit either. It's a burnout at this point. You know what I mean? But on a lighter note, even though it's not, it's funny now because I'm here to talk about it, but it's not really light. I was talking the other day. You're going to hear a lot of the other day conversations because they're going to be fresh in the front of my head. So me and a homie was talking about being younger. And this particular person, we've known each other since elementary school. So I've known this person since I was maybe 9, 8. And we get to talking about the dumb stuff we did in school and stuff like that. But then we just started talking about the dumb stuff we did as kids in general, right? And we kind of got on the very brief touchings of, we were, a little under the influence. So, conversation could go anywhere. Like, we think about what's the dumbest thing on memory that you know that you did as a kid. And I don't remember what his answer was. But mine is all right. Like I said, it's funny now because I'm here to talk about it. And I know, like, every time I, brought this up, once I got older in life and, was past the point where I could be really scorned by my parents about it, my mom used to be so pissed. So I got the bright idea one day that I was going to completely unravel a wire hanger and stick it in a socket. So, but my logic was this. If I'm fully stretched this out to the furthest it can go, if I'm far enough away from the wall, I'm not going to get shocked. That's the dumb shit. That's how fucking kids think, man. I'm telling you, kids are idiots. I love them. I was one. I was an idiot. Man, I'm talking about, I got this joint as straight as it could get. Like completely unraveled. I'm talking about worked on unraveling this hanger for about 20 minutes. Like I was that dedicated to the cause. I was probably 5. And I just remember it vividly because it was so painful. Man, I stuck that shit in that socket, man. And mind you, them hangers, like a wire hanger, fully stretched out 3 feet. Like, so I'm thinking, yo, I'm way back from this wall. I'm good. I'm in the safe zone. Yo, if you have never been like shocked, like when I say shocked, not touch somebody in it, pat. No, I'm talking like partially electrocuted. And I wasn't partially. I was electrocuted. Man, your body tenses up. You thinking, I'm trying to like, you can't even pull this shit out the wall. So it got to a point where my grip loosened up enough that I just I let it go. And it was still in the socket. I had to knock it out with something. So I knew I couldn't go. This was the 90s. Ass whoopings was still in full rotation. They wouldn't care about this guy electrocuted. Dumb shit. I would have earned that ass whooping too. So I'm like, I ain't telling my mom, I ain't telling my pop. The dumb shit that kids do. Happy that I woke up. What do? Go to sleep. Go to sleep. Happy to say I woke up the next day. That's the end of the story. But I just think like, yo, kids' logic. Your life is shaped by experiences. The older you get, you're supposed to let those experiences shape your mind in a way that is productive enough to not be doing certain shit later. And it just feeds to the bigger point that a lot of motherfuckers just skip that aspect of life. Like, it's there. I know people, I see people that will repeatedly make the same mistakes and are fine with it. It has never yielded better results. And as you get older, it's probably going to yield worse results. People still run with it because it's easy. Patterns are easy. Routine is easy. And because routine is so easy, regardless of whether it's a good routine or not, once people are locked into them, you're locked into them. And you have to be self-reflective enough to kind of take stock of your situation. And taking stock of your situation involves you being present. And I'm talking about, there's a lot of people who, the majority of people are on autopilot in life, at least adults. You got your routine. You wake up at this time of the day based on you having to be to this job or be to this gym or be to drop this kid off at school or whatever your life responsibilities and obligations are. But you'll start tailoring life around those obligations so much that they'll consume you completely. And you'll just kick it in the autopilot and you'll live life looking at the clock in order to cater to those specific needs and not realizing that constant motion and change is also a need too. But you have to be present. And so many people I know, man, myself included at times, not so much nowadays, that are living but not even present in their own mind, man. They're not even present really in their own life. And that's a sick and scary existence to live in. And it's one of those things where I pray that people realize it about themselves if they're in that situation more sooner than later. Because the older you get, the harder it is to break patterns. And when I say patterns, in this case, I'm talking about bad habits. You know, ain't no need to break a good habit. But those bad habits, man, and it'll be such of the norm to you that you don't even view it as a bad habit. It's just the way you live life. And you're like, you know what I mean? Typically how adults who don't want to adjust to that thing, when somebody points it out to them, their natural response is, well, it is what it is. This is how I do it. And when do we have the level of humility to admit how we do something is wrong? Or how I do something might not necessarily be wrong, but it ain't optimal. I try and be a very efficient person. I try to be efficient in my activities. I try to be efficient in my communication. And a lot of people don't like that either. And when I say efficient in my communication, I mean effectively communicating something where I don't pile on a bunch of unnecessary to get to the point when I know exactly what I want to get to the point with. So I'm giving you what I feel in the case of, every situation is, its own. So unless I'm speaking to a group, I'm speaking to you specifically based on my experiences with you. Our past experiences have shaped where we are now. So I am trying to get as to the point as I can while still getting it to I want to get it to exactly where you understand it. Don't give you no more than that because I don't want to get lost in the minutia. I want us to get to the bottom of whatever it might be. But people are so worried about hurting a person's feelings or worried about their feelings getting hurt. They might feel, I see this probably more often than the other. A person, they're kind of the one with the thin skin. So they won't tell a person what needs to be said because they are afraid of that person's reaction to them by way of telling them the truth about them and what they have going on. I have a friend of mine who I checked on about a month ago. And not even a month ago, maybe about 2, 3 weeks ago. And they were just, they said they were happy that I checked on them because they wanted to check on me because they were concerned and didn't know how to do it, so just didn't do it. And I never want to come off as that person. Like, I consider myself a highly approachable person. Now, I am a very strong-minded individual. I usually have an outlook on something. I'm a person with an opinion, and it's not ashamed of the fact that I have an opinion. It's the reason why I started this podcast. I think I have a very unique perspective on a lot of things, even if it's a simple one. I can word it in a way where a person might have had the same thought, but didn't even frame it that way. They didn't arrive to it the same way I arrived to it, and they can appreciate that. So that's typically how most of my stuff either ends well in a situation or goes completely left. Because there are some people who are willing to accept nuance, but most are not. And it falls under that umbrella where I'm talking about people with patterns and people and breaking habits. I mean, there's so many books, podcasts, quotes, and everything else on just how hard it is to instill new habits and new routines and what have you. So that's big, man. I don't know if that's like a thing where people, I guess it goes back to something that I said a few weeks ago, and it was something that my brother said recently, and I had just never heard this one before, so it's just resonating with me so much now. The thing about easy things is that it's easy not to do them too. And when I think about that statement, that is so heavy and so right. Because when you look at it as something like, I can do away with that tomorrow. I can change that tomorrow. Like, when you got to make that statement instead of doing it, it ain't that easy. You wouldn't even have to speak about it. It would be that. So, kind of, when we going to start, at the end of the day, just self-evaluating. Or, if you're not going to self-evaluate, actually take a step back for a second. Maybe when somebody else is evaluating you, for lack of a better term, or critiquing you, or somebody just cares about you and is concerned, actually trying to figure out why their perspective of you is that. You know what I mean? And if it's somebody that love you, it ain't pie out the sky. You know what I'm saying? They're not making it up. Now, they might have arrived at it from some false sense of something or viewing something through the wrong lens. But if they brought that to you out of concern, get them they right and try and think of why they arrived at that. Because maybe you'll change their perspective of something because they're viewing it through the wrong lens. Like, yo, I see how you arrived at this point, but it's not that, it's this. And I know I was in the space like that because the situation of my mom's passing, much like Chadwick Boseman's family, me and my family dealt with that matter very privately. So, didn't speak about it, didn't talk about it, had a whole podcast with my brothers, never touched on it once. None of us. That was out of respect for how she wanted things handled. And we respected that woman and we respected her process, and we went about that the best way we thought she wanted it went about. But I'm trying to figure out where I was going with that. just circling back, just self-evaluating. At the end of the day, nobody knows you better than you know you. They might say, it's a popular term, I know you better than you know yourself. And your adult life, nobody knows you better than you know you. But those other people are quicker to critique you than you are to critique yourself. So they might be pulling different things out by way of just analyzing you. And you don't want to be that, man. You don't want to be the last person to know something about you every time. But if you bury your hand in the sand and get caught into these routines and these these habits, that's 100% what it's going to be. Because it's nothing else it can be. And most people I know who got their head buried in the sand just go into these processes. It usually don't turn out well. And that tunnel vision and that routine might have you successful in one aspect of life, man, but just miserable and failing in so many others. We talked about the people looking at other people's situation from the outside and assuming everything is great and not knowing, they don't know they know the highlight reel. They know what you show them. They know what they see through the scope of social media. And those are the wins. People don't post the losses. I seen very, very sad news. Unfortunately, don't know the brother's first name, but I know this past week it shook up the internet that Regina King's son committed suicide. And it's just, whenever I typically stay out of the comments of hotbed issues in social media with prominent figures, right? Because it's usually the backseat driver who's speaking on these things. You go into it, man. It's just the ignorance, the level of ignorance, and it's hard for me to even talk about because when you just go in, unfortunately, the way these algorithms work, it usually push the nonsense to the top. You got people talking about he was up, his mom was this, his mom that. What does that have to do with that person's mental health, man? Clearly, that person's mental health was in shambles. The person took their own life. What were we just talking about last week? That it was like that doing harm to yourself isn't even human nature?
Yeah, it's not human nature.
We just said this.
Laws of how to survive. Like if you get knocked out, right? Your body still breathes, it still does everything it was to keep you alive.
Yes.
Like, it literally fights to keep you alive. There are things you can do that will knock you out. Like if you get up too fast, your body's gonna get back down. It's protecting you. Like it does things automatically to protect you.
So imagine the mental space that you have to be in order to be in a mindset to say you're gonna do something like that to yourself. Check on your folks, man. Check on your folks. If you see them spiraling and they don't even dig it, don't be scared. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. Don't be thinking, well, the thing I might say might be the thing that pushed them over the edge when you feel like they're at the edge already. You figure out what you think is the most effective plan of action, going in that direction, and hold them down, man. Hold down your folks. Nobody gonna do it but you. Especially when you concerned already because you see it at a point now where they're not gonna hold themselves down. Mm-hmm. You gotta hold down your peoples, man. And when I say your peoples, I'm not just talking about your close circle of friends, man. I'm talking about your community. Community taking care of itself. That is a big part of that gun violence thing too. Things are out of control now because the generations right before me and my generation were included in things like that. We didn't take pride in community the way that the generations did before us. Maybe it's because they lived a much simpler life. Maybe because they had so much just overt hatred and vitriol spewed towards them in all aspects of life that they felt like they knew they were all they had and they had to. And now that we have a little more freedoms and things like that, we're just way more for self. But What are you doing? What are you doing personally, right? That your kids or your nephews or the kids that look up to you, what are you doing to make this shit a better place for them? What are you do? Who are you reaching back for? Somebody gotta pull you ahead. If somebody pulled you ahead and you got to a point where now you're in a position to pull somebody else forward and you're not, yo, man, you failed the person that pulled you forward. You straight drop failed them. Because I assure you, I don't care who that person is in your life, how much they love you and all that, they didn't pull you forward to get you forward for you to say fuck everybody else. I know that's not how those type of people think. That's not how those type of people think. You know what I'm saying? And they ain't do it to be on the internet saying that I'm the one that put them on. I did this, I did that. No, they saw something in you from something that you already had going and said, I might can help them get there a little faster. Find somebody like that for yourself. You don't know who's looking at you. You don't know who's looking at you. You don't know who's looking up to you. I said it. You know what I mean? It a lot of this stuff, man, is going to be a lot of central themes, but I said it last week. It is not up to me to say I'm not somebody. I know now at this point, if I just tried to say that to myself, I'd be lying. I'd be lying. That's blocking your blessings too. Don't do that. But you don't know. But somebody is. And somebody watching your moves. I have a kid, so I know my moves being watched. I have a kid. I have younger siblings. I have younger nephews. I have younger nieces. I was around in my neighborhood as younger kids now that are men. Like, I'm 32. I think about now, if I was on the block at 14, some of the young boys I know that's 23 and all that, they were like 5. Yeah, my math wasn't mathing last week either, so don't hold it against me. I was recording that episode at about 2 a.m. I definitely said, when I cringe when I listen back to it, I'm talking about the 20,000 and the 50. I'm like, $1 million? 100,000. I'm like, fucking 20,000 in 5 weeks is 100,000. So it was more like $1 million or 10 million, something like that. But yeah, that was 2 a.m. shit, you know. Ain't no clocks in here. It's like the casino in Vegas. So y'all know that's why, I came in because I love y'all. My engineer had a busy week last week. I had a busy week last week. We met as a at a middle ground that just happened to be 2 a.m. But it got done. You know what I mean? Both of us had a busy day. Both of us had busy mornings the following morning, but we got it done for y'all. That's that consistency that I was talking about. We're going to get this schedule together at some point. Both of us got some things we're working on, but we're going to make sure y'all got an episode every week. We got that for you. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That's bar none. You know what I mean? And I'm talking about to the point where now, if something didn't have to happen with the video 1 week, you're going to get at least some audio. Sir. Every week. We got y'all. We holding y'all down. Y'all holding me down. Y'all holding him down by way of even watching or listening. So I got y'all. So this past Sunday, well, Saturday too, for my fans of sports, and I'm not gonna I'll give y'all a little tidbit every now and then, because I can have a sports show. That's my love. I can talk about football specifically every day. I could give y'all a daily show. But this past weekend was the greatest playoff football I've ever seen in my life.
That's orchestrated.
He said it's fixed. He said there's no way. Man, watching the last 2 minutes of the Buffalo Bills and Kansas City Chiefs was some of the most exhilarating. If you're a fan of competitiveness, if you're a fan of just competition, there's no way you weren't standing up for 2 minutes. It was that amazing. Patrick Mahomes is that amazing. Josh Allen is here. I was one of the people, I wasn't on the fence about him. I thought he was good. No, he's really good. He's really fucking good. He put his team up on the Kansas City Chiefs by 3 points with 13 seconds left. And the Kansas City Chiefs had to go from the 20-yard line on the other side of the field to get in the field goal range. And they just did it because Patrick Mahomes is amazing. We have to realize greatness. He is not the greatest quarterback of all time because he hasn't been in the league long enough to be.
Correct.
But he is on an astronomical trajectory. This is his 4th year as a starting quarterback in the league. This is his 4th straight AFC Championship appearance. He has already been to 2 Super Bowls. And if he wins this weekend, he will be to his 3rd Super Bowl in his 4th year as a starter. And do you one better? The first year as a starter, he got his team to lead. Defensive late hit on Tom Brady on 4th down where they had turned it over on downs. You don't give Tom Brady an extra chance. The game was over. He was going to a Super Bowl his first year as a starter. Meaning, if it wasn't for, I don't know if it was Justin Houston or one of those D linemen, hit Tom Brady, got him an extra down. Tom Brady takes it in overtime, the game's over. It's what it is. It's almost as certain as death in Texas. You know what I mean? It's what it is. I knew Atlanta. Look, what he say in Memphis? You know you done fucked up, right? When Atlanta let Tom Brady tie it, when they were down. All right, so the exception was this past weekend. Tom Brady tied the game. Cooper Kupp got them down the field. They made a field goal to win it. But Tom Brady was down 27-3 this past weekend and tied it at 27-27 with a minute left. But what I'm saying is, it's so easy. I don't know why it's so easy, but it is so easy to hate on something that's obviously great. People find a way to do it all the time. Yo, find a way to undo that shit with Patrick Mahomes. He's the man. He's like 26 years old. He's not going nowhere. Yo, he is the first. I didn't even know NFL contracts could be 10 years. The man's got a 10-year, $500 million contract for a reason. He worth every dollar. They already seen the return on their investment. Like full return. It is what it is. Like I said, I'm not going to beat y'all over the head with it. But sure enough, it's what it is. Sports adjacent. But just talking about what I believe to be shrewd business moves, right? Now, this is going on in real time. At this very moment, the Lakers are playing against the Sixers here. About 10 minutes from where we're at right now. And you get an announcement about an hour and a half before game time that LeBron will not be playing due to left knee soreness, right? So,
I'm pissed.
Yeah. But so, when I talk about shrewd business tactics, my personal opinion is what it is. LeBron James did not play because he did not want to reward the 76ers with that product while they have his player at home. You can say what you want. Clutch Sports is LeBron James. Meaning that Ben Simmons is a client of LeBron James. Rich Paul is his agent. All those things. Ben Simmons is with Rich Paul because of LeBron. I went to the Sixers game, not last week, but the previous week. And that day, Rich Paul just happened to come and meet with the Sixers because they're like, we got to get something figured out. And they got nothing figured out. They basically told him, yeah, he could sit for 4 years for all we care. If we can't get fair value for him in a trade, he could just stay home. But we willing to eat the contract. We're not trading him for nothing. And I guess Rich Paul must have stayed that day because he was sitting courtside during the game. But he might, they were playing the Hornets. I don't know. He might have a client on the Hornets. But let's talk about out-kicking your coverage. I know they say bet on yourself, but there is a chance that shit can go wrong. Ben Simmons is a prime example. People always say, oh, man, him and Embiid don't work together. Who do you keep? It ain't even a question no more. Joel Embiid, 16 of the last 19 games has put up 30 points. 2 of which he put up 50. He's averaging 33 points a game for the last 20.
It don't sound like a question to me.
It's not a question. Shooting 50% from the field, and it's not a guy, no discredit to a Shaq or to a Dwight Howard who shot ridiculous field goal percentages because everything they made was at the rim. This is a dude who's doing step back threes at 7-1. It's ridiculous what this guy can do, how skilled he is at that size, and I'm happy to see him finally healthy enough to show what, he is. But it gets to a point, and I guess in the case of a Clutch Sports and things, you don't know what's being said behind closed doors, but honesty only makes a poser uncomfortable. Rather than telling that man to sit out, why ain't y'all just telling this dude to work on his game? He was the problem. He is scared to death to shoot the basketball. Scared to death. And it took for him to pass up on a dunk or a layup over a person that's my height when he's 6'10", 6'11", for y'all to see just how terrified he is. And it's this isn't the bashing of him. It's just, as a Philadelphian, it's just, for what they invested in the dude, you wanted to see him on the court. And he ain't there, and he ain't there because of himself. I'm not putting none of the earnest on the team. He's not there because of him. Simple and plain. I'm leaving that at that. But opportunity. Everybody's opportunity ain't the same. But if something was worth the time of doing it, treat it like it's significant. Ben Simmons, nothing but opportunity. He never shot since he's been at the Sixers. He's a number 1 overall pick. They dealt with it for 7 years without telling this dude to shoot the ball. That was a wasted 7 years. All-star games, first team all defense, things like that. Now you want to trade him. You wasted the opportunity to trade him. The opportunity was wasted. At least for a commodity. You wasted the opportunity to trade him.
Stocks and shit. It's like,
yeah.
Are you going to wait until after, we know supply and demand, shit goes up and down. But
yes.
Wait until it literally has a value of nothing to be like, let's see if we can get the most for this. Like,
yes.
But you already saw the writing on the wall. Look at the graphs. You can look at the stats. Everything going wrong with it. You've seen it happen.
It's that sentimental. Don't let your emotions keep you more attached to something than you need to be. Know when something is no more good for you, and if it's something you can move on from it, because it's not doing you or that thing any justice. It was just as big of a hindrance on him as it was on that on the organization. Because he's still in the city. I seen him out the other day.
You seen him out?
I seen him out. I ain't gonna say where at, because it's a place that he frequents.
Yeah.
So I ain't a nut, and it's a place that I used to frequent and I respect the business.
Right.
But yeah, he's still around. He just here. But not wasting those opportunities and not looking at any opportunity as too small. It's gonna be some opportunities you gonna get, right? That if you just knock this shit out the park, it's the setup for the next thing. Most people are just looking for opportunity as a come up and are not willing to take, quote unquote, a temporary loss in order to optimize that particular opportunity. So my first opportunity with Bicycling Magazine, right? They reached out to me to be a cycling model for a specific bike for an issue that they had that came out last year around this time. Well, last February, their best bikes issue. So I go, I have no clue what's going on. Not really. I know who I'm going to be shooting with, where I'm going to be shooting, and I know I'm going to be shooting on this bike. Aside from that, I know nothing. So I'm overcompensating. I know I'm getting paid this amount, right? I put every single dollar of what they paid me and then some into what I wore to that shoot. Not knowing that they were going to bring me things to wear and all that. I overcompensated for the opportunity because I said, I'm going to knock this shit out the park the first time. Between what I spent to go to where I needed to go to get what I wanted to wear, I spent 2 to 3 times more preparing for that shit than they paid me to do it. Without question. But that situation laid the foundation for something else. For plenty more. I don't even want to say something else, because that seems like I'm implying it led to this one thing. No. It laid the foundation for them to know how I was coming. And that I'm going to take this shit seriously. And subsequently, it led to 2 months later, them asking me, can I do another shoot for them for another article? I go to do that shoot, a ton of gear. Like, yeah, some of this stuff was meant for the last shoot. Some of it wasn't here yet, but you just showed up looking so awesome. We just said, forget it. But here's all now. And the rest is history. I do that shoot, the shots tested through the roof, and those shots from that shoot, shout out to Trevor Rabb, the photographer, who's amazing behind the lens. That shot ended up on the cover of Bicycling magazine. When I was, not belittling myself, but as far as the cycling landscape goes nationwide, and this is a worldwide publication, I was nobody. There are people who found me by way of the cover. A lot of people. So just not wasting opportunities. If it's significant enough for you to actually take part and do it right. Do it right. Why waste your time and why waste other people's time? You know what I'm saying? Why participate in a conversation with a person if you're just gonna small talk them and give them a bunch of yeah. And yo, man, save that person the time and save yourself the time. Because maybe you're just not in the mood that day, and maybe the conversation or the situation, or you're not in a place at this time of your life to really take advantage of said opportunity. Yo, man, pass that shit up. Pass it up before you go up there and stink it up. Now, it might not ever become available to you again, but don't get out there and make a fool of yourself, man. Or make a fool of somebody else for saying that you could do it. Be there, man. Be present. Be present enough to know when to pass on an opportunity or when to pass on a person. What Dave Chappelle say told the dude, man, I got the girl when I was in law school and I was broke. And he said, man, excuse my language, but he just like, you really like the chick? Yeah, man, yeah, I love her. He said, man, save that bitch for another time of your life.
That's real shit.
He said, save it for another time of your life. He said, because guess what? He ended up marrying the girl. Shit didn't end up working out. He said he ain't have shit. And you know what she did? Took half of that. So you have to be present enough to say, I'm not prepared or ready for this. And that takes a lot of humility to do. It takes a lot of humility. And people don't let the outside optics or the outside view make that decision for you. Don't have it be, oh, somebody's gonna think I'm scared, or I'm sorry to say, or I'm pussy because I turned down that, or I'm stupid and this, that, and the third. Yo, that person, they gauging from the outside looking in, man. But making an ass out of yourself by assuming. Don't let nobody. And don't get me wrong, some shit is a needed push to get you to do certain stuff that you wouldn't have done otherwise. I've been a direct beneficiary of that. But when you know you are not ready for said thing, and you can avoid going out there and putting out a bad fucking product, avoid going out there and putting out that bad product, man. I can't state it enough. I've seen it. I've been the one that's done it. I've been the one who has put other people in position to do it. I'll say this: I regret those more than me doing it, though. Because now, there's in certain situations I was able to mend relationships with the person who I put the bad energy on, but in most cases, in several cases, my credibility with a certain person is shot, and it's something that I could have avoided because it wasn't even from me. I let another motherfucker tarnish my credibility with a person, but at the end of the day, I can't say they did it because I put them in a position to do it. So the buck stops at me. I did it. You know what I'm saying? It ain't too many things that in this world that a person is blaming another, that an adult is blaming another person for that wasn't really that person, that adult's fault. And a person, usually in most cases, a person can only let you down as much as you put them in position to do.
Keys.
Simple.
Major keys.
Simple math. But it's easy as shit to complain. It's easy to say that this person did that or that person did this. What did you do? That self-analyzation, that being self-critical part. What did you do? When you feel like the next time, right? Because like I said, it's harder to gauge, to really, really soul search, and because you got to pick a point to start at, and that's the harder part too. Picking a point like, yo, what is wrong with me? And finding a point to start from. But this is much easier to do. The next time you feeling ill will towards a person because you feel like they let you down in some regard, think about how you put them in a position to do it. Think about how you put them in position to do it, and think about why you even needed the person to do that enough that it's even, or are you just in your feelings? And that person didn't really do nothing crazy. They just couldn't deliver a thing for you that you couldn't deliver for yourself. And it's easier for you to be upset with them than it is for you to be upset with yourself. I'm telling you, if you really, really, really want to be critical about yourself in that aspect, that's usually the case. More often than not. It's easier for you to have that hatred and vitriol towards somebody else than it is for you to have it against yourself. I'm telling you, I guess because, yo, man, my dad didn't let us blame nobody else for shit. And when I say blame nobody else, I'm talking about something where it ends up where you didn't fulfill your responsibility in something. And then you try and say why you didn't do it by way of what somebody else didn't do. And I'm telling you, man, more often than not, my dad, anytime me and my brother have ever tried to get up, yo, first and foremost, we were raised in the worry about yourself mantra when it came to responsibility. Not just worry about yourself and just be, because if it was just that simple in regards to just life, it would take away the whole reaching back thing because all you're worried about is yourself. No, I'm talking about when it comes to getting results and going about shit the right way, you shouldn't be able to say why another person got you to do the wrong thing. You know what I mean? It's lazy. And most things that are lazy are irresponsible. Best I can sum that up. And the simplest way I can sum that up. And trying to teach that to the next generation when I will say there's like a much bigger, it's a shift in how society is being ran, some things for the better. As far as dealing with kids a little more sensitively.
That's a good way to put it.
You know what I mean? That's the best way I can put it. You know, dealing with them a little more sensitively. I know, you know, naturally I have to deal with my kid much more sensitively than I was dealt with because she's a girl. She's a girl. She's a girl that I am trying to help groom along with her mother and along with the rest of her tribe into a woman. So there are things Now, principle-wise, I'm not giving her nothing different than I was given. I still want her to be a decent person. But there's a lot. I have to be a lot more. I have to approach situations a lot touchier than things were approached with me. And that is fine. But I'm saying that now because so many of the lessons now that I'm trying to get across, it's the time for it, man, because my kid getting old. Cold for I'm getting old. Like, as I'm standing with her the other day, I'm realizing, and I'm not a short dude. You know, I'm just like 6'1", 6'2". My daughter at my shoulder. She 10. And it's just hitting me more and more every day by way of the nature of how our conversation is changing. And it's the nature in which she's changing the conversation, not me. I'm realizing now, man, the days that she'll always be my baby, but those baby days are long behind. And those she's a kid days are numbered. So that reaching back, like this is not a reach back. This is one. She on my shoulders, as far as I'm concerned. So this is not a reach back. This is mine. But I want to instill certain core principles in her that were instilled in me. And this shit is a process because I'm learning how to do this. Because I cannot do the biggest thing about communication to me is effective communication. And I know that certain things that were gotten across to me won't get across to her a certain way. It's not going to land. So my job, if I'm serious about what I'm saying and really practicing what I preach, my job is to find that effective line of communication to get these points across to her. And it's an adjustment. It's an adjustment, but it's another way of me holding myself accountable and me being self-critical too. And just, or not even self-critical, just self-analyzing, because it's like, how can I do this better? Because I want that person to not be better, because that person is still growing into that person. But I want that person to be the best version of them. And I know I got a big part in that. So I have to do things better on my side. And it's so funny, man, because I had a few notes written down. Just wanted to talk about the different drops in the market, with Zoom stock being down 75% and Square being down. Square now Block, you know, when people start failing, they change some names or whatever, being down 65%. But it's like, that stuff is so small and minuscule in my life compared to the last thing that I talked about. I can't even end on that. I'm ending on this. If you want another person to be better, you're being critical of that person because you're saying, and critical, we use it, the way, how sensitive we are as a society, we always look at the word critical and phrase it negatively. When I'm just critiquing something because I know it can be better and I want it to be better. But if you can do that for somebody else, you need to be able to do that for yourself. You need to be able to say, I'm not the best version of me. And you need to start figuring out how you're going to get there. Now this is an endless process. There ain't no finish line with that. You should be doing that for the rest of your days. And I'm so adamant about this because it's something I just recently started doing in my life, probably around the time that my mom got sick. And that was October. That diagnosis, she got her prognosis October of 2019. So I'm going into year 3 of at least obviously thinking this way. Like, it's been in the front of my mind, like overtly, like this is what I'm on. But I just want more people to be on it. Because I'm telling you, man, it might save so many relationships of yours. Realizing that you might not be the problem overall, but realizing whatever your problems are, that you're a part of the problem. And how can I be better in the situation? And then once you realize how you can be better in the situation, and you are better in the situation, now you're realizing, all right, it ain't no more I can do to this. This is the past part of my life. I got to leave it where it's at. You know, analyzing, taking stock in self requires you being present. Are you present in your own life? It sounds so simple. It sounds so simple. But when you really start sitting back and taking stock, you see what I'm talking about. Thought you should know that, man. Deeq be knowing. Thought you should know podcast. Go on.